Alright everybody, time for another video on this nice stroll like we were doing before. Sorry I've been uploading my videos on a regular basis, but I've been mainly making my videos through my phone. But what I've noticed is that I've been using up my data faster by doing this whole process of using up my phone. So anyways, I have to find other means of being able to record my content for my videos. I'm probably going to have to see about going ahead and using my camera on my computer in order to do so. So anyways, topic of the video. This is going to be the part 3 on why I believe that white privilege and reparations for slavery is bullshit. Okay. So we already talked about how with white privilege, that does not exist anymore because nowadays anybody can go ahead and make an opportunity for themselves in the United States. There are, of course, some strains of racism and prejudice, but it's not as prevalent as there were back in the days in which we had Jim Crow and segregation and slavery, since that's all been abolished. Now let's go into a final point that I think should really put the final nail on the coffin for why reparations for slavery is bullshit. Now, what is the popular notion of why slavery happened? See, slavery in popular culture, in popular American culture, has been interpreted as when Europeans, the white man, came on over to Africa for several hundred years, and they stole Africans from their homeland and brought them over to the New World to be slaves. But as historians have found out, and this is proven research based on facts, was that that's not what happened. Okay? As it turns out, African people were also taking part in slavery. See, slavery was not done by stealing Africans. It was by buying Africans from other African people. See, over the course of several hundred years, between the late 1400s up until the early 1800s, between 12 to 13 million African people were sold into slavery. And what the process was that during that time, other African leaders, African kingdoms, and African tribes in Central and West Africa were warring against each other. And one of the main motivations of war during this time period was to capture people of the losing side and then selling them to the Europeans and the Arabs as slaves. There were reports along the coast of West Africa in which African leaders have built that were specifically made for the selling of slaves and the trading of slaves for goods that the Europeans and Arabs would provide, such as guns, such as livestock, such as alcohol, and so forth. So really, getting back to reparations. Reparations has been popularly conceived as when the white man will finally pay back for enslaving African people. Yeah, black people's ancestors. But since this has been a proven fact that African people were in fact taking part in the distribution and selling of slaves, does that mean that the descendants of the African leaders and African tribes that were taking part in these wars to capture other Africans and being sold into slavery, should they also have to go ahead and pay reparations? Ideally, they should. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. There's no way that you can really track who it was that actually took part in slavery in Africa. And I don't think that it's also fair that Africans who have been descendants of such people should pay for reparations. Because again, slavery happened in the past. Slavery has already been done and over with as far as the selling of slaves, the transatlantic slave trade. And let's get back to this, is that rather than black people blaming the white man for all their problems and all their issues, they need to be able to go ahead and take a good look at themselves. Because let's get back to this, is that the reason why there's black people here in the United States, and there are people, one of the main reasons why there are people of African descent in many other parts of the world outside of Africa, was because their ancestors back in their homeland were fighting against and betraying one another for monetary gain. Think about it. And here's another thing, is that if all of the African people during this time period in which slavery was going on, if all of the African people, all the African leaders and all the African tribesmen, all the African kingdoms agreed that slavery was wrong, and if they all bonded together to resist the white man from capturing their own people as slaves, do you think that slavery would have even existed to begin with? Given the strength and numbers that they would have, most likely they wouldn't. The Europeans and the Arabs would not have been able to pull it off. But again, that's not what happened. Because, again, African people were turning against each other. Which honestly is still something that is plaguing the African culture today. So again, if black people are really going to be able, and African people are really going to be able to make something better of themselves, it's not through reparations of slavery. It's not through saying that, oh, you have privilege because you're white. No. It has to do with taking a good look at yourself and understanding what is it about our culture that's holding us back. And as I brought up in this video, one of the main reasons why in Africa, and even the black culture today, why it's held back so much, is because of the jealousy and hatred and fighting against and betraying of one another that still plagues both communities today. And if the African people and black people not all black people are like this, but the ones who are causing all this havoc and destruction within their communities and towards each other were to learn to replace such attitudes, such ways of living, with more so compassion, with love, with cooperation and collaboration for one another, both communities and both cultures would be in a much better state than how they are today. So again, don't blame everyone else for your problems. You need to look at yourself and blame yourself for your own mistakes. That's how it's going to be able to move forward. Because again, If you choose to be a victim of your circumstances, you're not going to go anywhere in life. And a lot of times those circumstances are something that you have brought upon yourself, or something that your ancestors brought onto you. And you should learn not to repeat the same mistakes as they did. That's my thought on the video today. I have proof of this, and I'll show you within the comments. Historical proof if you don't believe me. Check it out after you're done watching this. Bye-bye.